In the creative arts industry, the murder of a project is considered especially heinous. The dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Pitch Bleak Unit. The cases are real. The victims are real. The music is an original work. Please do not flag this video for copyright infringement. This is Pitch Bleak. On today's episode, Lorin Clarke, author, TV writer, podcaster, and the eldest daughter of a beloved comedian. When she stumbled across $1 million idea, a dream team came together to make it happen. But after 2 years of work, Lorin was left with nothing. Who killed this guaranteed hit? Who put Lorin's brainwave in the microwave? It's time to catch a killer on the True Creative Crime Podcast, Pitch Bleak.
Alrighty. Interview with suspect begins at 10:15 a.m. Officers Hayden Bevis and Chris Kennett present.
Would you please state your full name for the tape?
Full name?
Yes, please.
Can I just give you two? Look, my full name is Lorin Jean Clarke. But Lorin Clarke is what I am, what I refer to myself as. The Jean doesn't get much of a run.
It doesn't?
No. Sometimes it's, in really official occasions it comes out.
What's the official occasion that it would come out?
Oh, things like when I have to sign contracts, it comes up.
Oh.
Do you guys have middle names?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, what's yours? What?
You're turning this on me already? Yeah, it's
It's been off the rails.
Okay. It's Ian. Happy?
Is it?
Yeah, it is. After my late uncle, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and
Michael.
Michael. Okay.
Does that make you happy or sad? I don't know.
No. It's just that I do find middle names slightly surprising. Like when I get to a contract and I'm like, oh, it says Lorin Jean Clarke. It's like I'm getting in trouble or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like your parents are calling you from another room and they know what you've done and you've been trying to keep it from them for a while. Lorin Jean Clarke.
well, we know what you've done.
What have I done?
Lorin Jean
Oh,
Clarke.
God.
Right. You've got quite the rap sheet, Clarke. Says here you're an author. You've written your own children's book and quite recently released a memoir entitled Would That Be Funny? Growing Up with John Clarke.
Those facts, yeah, they're about right.
Look, can you just confirm, for the record, you are in fact a daughter of the late, great New Zealand satirist John Clarke?
That is true.
Because
Yes.
because if you weren't, it probably wouldn't have been appropriate for you to write
No.
that book.
No, I thought about that. I did double check the veracity of my claim, and it does hold up. It does hold up. Although, just to correct, he was not. He was, as you said, New Zealand satirist John Clarke, as opposed to you pronounced it Jean. So he wasn't French. Just to let you know,
Did I really?
Jean. Yeah, you did.
Jean
Clarke.
I'm still thinking about Jean.
I mean, he could have quite. Well, there you go. Anyway, yes, that's correct.
And you're currently making a documentary about John?
I am. Yeah, I've become the John Clarke guy by accident. I was having quite a nice time running my own life for a while there. But no, my dad was a beautiful man and a lovely person to sit alongside in an office. So whenever I needed to do a bunch of work, I'd go sit next to my dad in his office in Fitzroy and we would just talk. And a couple of times I recorded it. So, and I'd just ask him stuff about his life and his career. And so people knew to come to me and they'd come to me and they'd say, we're thinking of telling a story about John Clarke. And I go, cool, thinking that'll mean I can get back to my things that I was doing. And then they'd tell me what the story was and I'd go, you've almost got it. You've almost got it. Can I help? And most of the time they'd go, oh, no, because, involving the family in something it's like you don't want to do that if you're doing a film about, you want to have like creative control and you want to be able to disappoint them and reveal all of the deep, dark secrets and things like that. And I was like, no, I don't care about the deep, dark secrets, but I do think he's more interesting than his Wikipedia page. So maybe – anyway, and one of the people I was having this conversation with said, in fact several did, said, you've got to do it. like tell it as a personal story. So that's what I'm doing. And it's due out next year. It's a feature.
When people do stories on John, you're like, it's not quite right. What do they constantly get wrong?
He is a rare good news story of a white baby boomer comedian, right? He was a pretty decent human being. So, people go, oh yeah, he was hilarious. He was so funny. And you can only have so many people sitting in a row saying that, right? So what I wanted to do was not have that again. He was a human being just like anyone else. He had a really interesting life, like really interesting psychology that he talked about openly all the time with me, some of which is recorded. And his sort of approach to life, he gave his teenage daughters, the absolute heebie-jeebies when he used to argue with us when we were teenagers, and he was impossible to argue with because he's always clever with the structure of his argument. And then right when you were like, oh, no, but I've got another good point, he would grin and you were just rooted. Like you can't. And Brian Dorr told me after he died, no, you look at his forehead. Can't look at his eyes. I was like, oh, my God, if you told me that when I was 13, it would have been really helpful.
Does your creative process differ to his?
I don't think our creative processes are much different, but our writing is. Yeah. So our work has always been, and possibly that's me growing up in the benevolent shadow of that guy, but we're quite different. But I looked at a copy of the script of the games the other week. There are no scene headers. So if anyone works in TV or film, they will know that you've got to have a structure in your script. You've got to have, scenes to refer to. So the first AD knows, and so that everybody knows what's going on. It's just dialogue. It opens with dialogue. It's dialogue. It's dialogue. It's dialogue. It's dialogue. Turn the page. It's dialogue. It's dialogue. It's dialogue. Halfway down the page, in italics, Brian is in a cab. Dialogue, 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 dialogue. Literally, that's the episode I was looking at.
Is that a power play, do you think?
No, I genuinely, he and I both value character and dialogue over other stuff. Like we used to do table reads of scripts, and he used to say, close your eyes. If it doesn't sound right, you got it wrong. So,
Lorin Clarke, I'm tempted to say no further questions at this point.
I know.
You are not merely your father's biographer. You are not a nepo baby.
Well,
as trendy as that is.
Totally, I wish.
You've done a bunch of things. You've written children's TV, including, I see here, for a little cartoon called Bluey.
Yeah,
What the hell?
Yeah. Actually, that's it.
Why are you not flying in solid gold
Well,
plates?
that is true. No, that is true. I should never have left that building. I should have just chained myself to the wall. I came on really early in Bluey when they were figuring out. I mean, Joe Brum, who's the brainchild it is, absolutely knew what it was from the get-go. And my mum remembers me calling her and saying, it's finally happened. I'm in a room where this is going to be a hit, like from day one.
Yep.
Like as in every other kids show I've done, I've thought this is nice in this way and I'll do this and I'll do that. But I'd never thought a kids show that I'd work on would be, a world breaker or whatever, but I just knew this was different. And I sat around a table for a few days with them all and we talked about the first series and what the episodes could be, threw around ideas. And I wrote some early drafts of an idea that I pitched to them, which was based on my kid at the time who, I can't remember how old she was, but she cut her own fringe. I came into the lounge room and she had a sort of, asymmetrical Fitzroy haircut that she'd given herself. And I said, what happened? And, there's hair all over the floor. She got scissors in her hands. And she said it was the Hitty Pitties. And I said, I beg yours? And she said, the Hitty Pitties, you haven't seen them? And she just absolutely deadpanned it. And she invented this race of basically fairies that lived under the stairs that adults can't see. And so I took that concept to the table and we all talked about it. And the idea became better than that because, you know, if adults can't see it, how can children manipulate adults through that process? And it became a delightful episode, which I only have a story by credit on, but with Joe, called Fairies, which it was an absolute joy to watch. It's like I'd predicted something, to watch Bluey just explode. Because, and I believe, and I'm a bit boring on this, and I know you've had guests who are much kinder to the process, but I believe that TV writing particularly has it all backwards, and that Joe was allowed to do it properly.
All right. After Bluey, you've done a lot of radio over the years, and it says here you wrote and directed and narrated the award-winning ABC audio fiction serial, The Fitzroy Diaries. Yeah. What's it like to have a successful podcast?
Well, you know what? I should shut up, but that's another story about pitching versus making. And I reckon, and Dad reckoned the same thing, we bitched about it all the time, that making, actually if you get certain things right, like character and the way it sounds and the sort of emotional logic of it, or the grammar of the kind of the way each episode works or something, those things are kind of, you can't plot them on a whiteboard, right? So I'm not saying we don't, but you could listen to the Fitzroy Diaries and go, there is no plot. And you'd probably be quite right, because that was kind of one of the points of it, right? It's a podcast about somebody walking through the streets of Fitzroy and accidentally kind of becoming part of the neighbourhood. People wrote to me from all over the world. Like, you know, I've got this great email from a woman in Finland who listened while you know, driving the tractor around the bottom paddock in Finland, and said, I really loved episode 8 or whatever. Just, what? Because what everybody who I've subsequently spoken to in TV has said is, you would have been told, why Fitzroy? Don't narrow it to Fitzroy. Nobody will understand that. Not everyone's been to Fitzroy, Lorin. And it's like, sure, but not everyone's been the Prince of Denmark, right? But we all know how to watch Hamlet. Guys, come on, you know. Not that I'm that's
a
analogy
comparison.
ends there. But yeah. So a friend of mine sent me an email and said, did you see this review someone's done on, it was just a personal, it was like, you know, an iTunes thing or something. Like somebody had written something about the Fitzroy Diaries and they'd written, this beautiful story about the fictional town of Fitzroy. And they're like, you know, from Santa Monica or something. And it doesn't matter. Like, couldn't make my point better. But anyway.
Look, as being deeply familiar with Fitzroy as you are, as I can see how it doesn't, in a lot of ways, it's not like a real place.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's also a bit like every place. I don't know. I kind of wonder, when does the creative person get trusted in this process?
Do you
Never.
Happened to
my
Dad.
experience.
Happened to Dad at the peak of his, you know, when he was like, you would think he'd be able to go, hi, John Clarke, I thought I'd make a comedy. What do you reckon? I mean, that was a comfort to me, because I remember saying to him, nobody, I couldn't get myself arrested in this industry. And he's like, yeah, well, I went into the ABC the other day. You know, the head of the ABC saw me and hopped into a lift. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Now, we've brought you in today
Yes.
to talk specifically about a missing TV show
Yeah.
called Unaccompanied Minors.
Mm-hmm.
That ringing any bells?
Yes, look, I did sink a couple of years into that, so yes.
Take us back to the start, back to the beginning. How did this whole mess get started?
Now, this was in 2008, I think, right?
2008.
One day I was reading an article in the paper, and what this article said was that these police organisations all around the world were running a program where what they'd figured out was cops were trained in copdom, obviously, and there are decades of precedent on which to base that. But crime was changing massively. It was almost all, like almost every element, apart from like you stole the wallet off that guy and there was no CCTV camera anywhere, almost all of it has a digital component now. And a lot of it is in some way cyber. So that's all well and good. Police are like, okay, we're learning, we're getting our heads around cybercrime, we're getting our heads around scams and terrorism and all manner of things. But what we don't understand is how that generation that is coming through of new criminals, how they talk, how they think, how they do crime. So they were going around hiring groups of teenagers to work with the cops. Some of the teenagers were like, I'm the hacker that got arrested over here for stealing £4 million from blah, blah, blah. And as a good behaviour thing, they've asked me if I can come and help you guys. But most of them were just teenagers. And they said, right, how do you say, like, what is LOL and things, right? This is before any of this was kind of, like the internet and cybercrime was just becoming a thing. WikiLeaks happened, I think it's like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So it was, but I knew, and I read this article, it was about as big as like an envelope. It was that small an article, and it just said police across the world are hiring teenagers to solve crime because teenagers have all this knowledge on it and cops don't. And I was like, guys, maybe we should do another thing that's not this kid's thing. Rita Walsh pitched it. She's the producer who's now in LA. And we worked on it. We researched it. We did a whole, Bible, and we did it. And we had attached to it Jan Chapman, who's, Jane Campion's producer, who was like, right, so tell me about, and she would just sit there and ask us questions. We went and visited her in her office because Rita had been working with her or for her. And my dad was a script editor. He was like, oh, yeah, I can script edit it for you, because we used to work on each other's scripts all the time. And so we went into the ABC. We had both of them attached, and we said to the drama department, this is our proposal. They said, we love it. We'll fund development of it. So I got to development included research, by the way, which was my favourite thing in the world, because I actually had to get like a security pass to go into an underground cyber den of really and all run by women
here in Australia,
high boots in Canberra.
Oh,
in like high boots, short skirts and long jackets, as the old classics go. And they would say, yeah, so what tends to happen is, and they were just amazingly brilliant, and they would on the very, very cutting edge of all this stuff, and like, this is what we're predicting is going to happen over the next little while, and this, and then,
are we linked in with that department where
the short
skirts and long jackets?
Yeah, well,
my point is
our agency
straight out of central casting. Like it was honestly, I was like, this is the world you guys are like it. Do you act? Like it was hilarious, right? And I had a mate who knew all about, I got a bunch of information from him because he researched a bunch of crap. And there was really interesting stuff happening, like how, the dudes who were about to fly the planes in 9/11, afterwards, I might have an element of this wrong, so, don't sue me, but Afterwards.
You want to be careful if you get your 9/11 facts right.
Anyway, the FBI and all those dudes later were like, whoa, what did we miss, right? And they went in and they were like, we had a track on all their email addresses because they knew who they were, these dudes. They'd been following them. And then they went into the email addresses and instead of sending emails, which would have triggered an investigation, what these cats had been doing was using the drafts folder, and they just all had a login. Like, it's that simple, right? It's a stupid but amazing thing. And so you would kind of, and you know, I learned about, the other person that I worked with was an undercover cop who worked with the mafia, the Calabrian mafia, and talked about working undercover and talked about, I mean, that was amazing. He was actually later, he was involved in, you know, whatever that TV show is, Underbelly. And he was telling me all this amazing, there was so much good stuff in that for drama, for good relationships, for like complications, you know. I just thought this is like the best. It's just been handed to me in an article, and then I've met Short Skirts, Long Jackets, and then I've met undercover Calabrian mafia guy who's like, yeah, I had a pretend girlfriend for 5 years. It's like, you know, just like things where you just go, well, these people are kind of normal people in our society doing a massive job that kind of, you know, is holding society, preventing catastrophe or attempting to. And then there are some 17-year-olds who are like, oh, my God, I can't believe you just did that. That's so stupid. You just need to log in. And, you know, so that was my premise. So teenagers helping cops solve cybercrime before cybercrime and all that stuff became a thing.
I will point out that it's been well established that teenagers have a special insight into crime solving ever since Scooby-Doo. So... Yep.
Sure.
Maybe not entirely original.
Yeah.
But look, obviously, clearly, it's solid gold idea. You've taken that into the ABC. They've
taken that into the ABC.
Bing.
They've gone, we love it.
So
funded development.
Funded. Just
funded. Gave us money so that we could write.
How much?
Am I supposed to say how much? 60 grand.
Okay.
Right. So like we're about to we're talking about casting with this woman at the ABC who loves it. And we had written, Dad had said to me, this Bible bullshit, it's not the actual Bible.
Not the Bible.
Heathen, write down the word heathen. No, he meant the Bible pitch that you have to do as a writer.
Yeah.
He said it's a horse shit. It's so tiring. It's like describe the thing that you haven't written yet. Write the thing. Yeah. And so I wrote like a spec script kind of thing, and he edited it, which meant that he was like, when Dad did an edit, it was usually, it came out the end and it was faster. It had good rhythm, it had momentum, and it had, 900% more jokes. Or suggested jokes. Like you could work on a thing here. And anyway, half the time I took them out because they didn't quite work. They were John Clarke jokes, not Lorin Clarke jokes. But anyway, so I had that and we had the pitch and everything was going really smoothly. And there was a meeting in Sydney that Stu, Rita and I went to, which is famous in Stu, Rita, Lorin law, because we went to Bronte Beach afterwards to go for a swim. And I slammed the steering wheel with my hand going, I think it's gonna happen. What an idiot. Because I had not allowed myself to do that yet.
Yeah. Slammed the steering wheel.
And then a couple of weeks later, we didn't hear from the ABC for a while. And we were like, uh-oh, what's happening? And then we found out that the woman that ran the department who was championing our thing was sick, really sick, had cancer. And we said, what? No, but you like our thing. You are the person who is making it happen. Where is the cupboard that the $60,000 came out of? Can we have some more? And Anyway, she was replaced. And we didn't hear from the ABC. We didn't hear from the ABC. We didn't hear from the ABC. Then finally, we got a bunch of questions. I did not like the questions. They were things like, so if, it's just that, like, if it's about cybercrime, like, we just can't have a lot of footage in offices of people on computers. I was like, sorry, did you read the stupid Bible that you made me write? Because it's full of real life personal examples of this happening and that happening, and not all of it is in front of whatever you're imagining from the 80s that is in your head. That was one of the questions. One of the other questions was...
Is that because, like, on every piece of news footage you've ever seen, they say cybercrime, there's a hooded someone
totally
at a computer.
Exactly.
And why are they even in a hood? Like,
totally.
I don't need to be in a hood. They're like,
It's
that is what I imagine cybercrime
yes.
is. Yeah,
They just didn't have the imagination, which you would think a person in that job would maybe have. Anyway, and the other question was, right, so where do you see, who do you think your audience is going to be? And I was like, love this one, always love this one.
It's like you got to pick an age range, and it's like you're guessing. It's like a lottery thing.
Yeah, it's like, is this
It's
right?
like, is it
Is this what you think?
18 to 35? They're like, yeah.
Totally. They said, but what sort of thing is it like? So I said, well, we would like it not to be like anything else. But okay, here, if you insist, here is a list of things. You give them the list of things and they go, yeah, but those are exceptions. And you go, well, so you don't want to make something exceptional? What? Anyway, and the other thing that she said was, so we're just thinking maybe a little bit more Miss Marple. Like a bit more like Miss Marple. Like maybe we can make it a bit more like that. And I'm like, is that because there's a crime element? Like a woman? I don't understand. What is the connection? Like you could have said play school. Like anyway, so I found the entire thing extremely upsetting, frustrating. We'd taken 2 years out of our lives to do this. Dad was like, sing it, sister. I've been telling you this since you were a fetus and stuff, which is true. But it was really heartbreaking because what then happened was we didn't hear, which I know you've heard before. We didn't hear back from the ABC. And then one day Rita finally got them. She caught them in the morning and
like,
not literally.
was she hiding?
Not literally. On the phone.
Even though they were wearing hoodies.
They were wearing hoodies at their computers at the time. And she said, hi, person. And person said, oh, hi, Rita. I suppose you've figured out by now that it's a no from us. And that was how he found out.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think these people understand that they actually kind of in some way have a duty of care to the people who've done this stuff. Like that they actually, I was in my 30s, but I was like it was early in my career and I can cop criticism. I grew up with it. We sit around the table at my house and everyone just tears through your thing and like worst case scenarios, everything for you, right? So I'm up for that. In fact, I feed off it. I'm like, yes, give me some, tell me this doesn't work, and then I will either justify why it does or fix it. I just cannot come at somebody who thinks it's okay to do that over the phone and who also, like, I mean, it is that thing of you need a champion. And I was told that really early. And I was also told another amazing thing, which did help me feel a bit better when all this went down, which was beforehand when when we were contracting all of the stuff, this person said to me, you got to think about what your idea is because people don't do that enough. They're like, I want to protect my idea. The question is why? Is it your only idea? Because if you're never going to have another one and that's your big guy, you got to look after it. But if it's not that and you think, I'm going to keep going after this is kind of what I want to do with my life, you got to know that it could disappear. And there was something about just framing it like that where I was like, okay, so I went in with open eyes knowing that it could collapse. Anyway, learned some things, but that doesn't mean that I'm not still absolutely furious at its demise.
Still mad.
Still
all
mad.
These years later.
Oh, my God, absolutely. And it was also really patronising. Like, I think if Jan Chapman had called them up, they wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
You know, it was infuriating. And, you know, it was really infuriating. For the next 10 years, we all sent each other all the articles about things like WikiLeaks and like, you know, all of this stuff that ended up happening that would have been perfect fodder for that story. So, yeah.
That is a devastating line. I guess you figured out.
Yeah.
It's a no from us.
Guess
As
you
if
figured out.
this was the real mystery.
Yeah.
And you figured it out.
Yeah. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congrats to
the
you
real
guys.
mystery story here
We
was
left
what
you
we were
alone. We mismarpled you.
doing. Well done.
Anyway.
You
Does that
tracked
make
me
you
down?
Does that make you think within the ABC walls they're like, that is the procedure? You're like, oh, we're unsure about that.
Totally.
So it's
Like,
like no, and
what
they're like,
have I
do we let Lorin know and Rita know? And they're like, no, you just don't talk to them.
You just don't talk to them. And then when they ring, you just make it a fait accompli. One thing.
Look, and we.
Yes.
I want to say, I love the ABC. You love the ABC.
I do too. We all
love
do.
the ABC.
Yeah, everyone loves the ABC.
But it's not the first time
No.
we've heard somewhat similar stories
Yeah.
about the fates of certain projects.
No. And I've worked subsequently with some really great ABC executives, which I never thought was a sentence I would say. And I can almost feel, you know, Dad saying, you what? But there is I've sat in a couple of meetings in kids' TV things, and I'll be saying something mental like, what if we had a whole episode where nobody talks or something? And everyone will be like, we can't do that, Lorin, you know. And this ABC executive would say, hang on, why not? And I was like, oh, what? And it's not that we should do crazy things like that, but just why don't we think about the why behind things? And I just don't think I just think if you think of it as just a product in the market or whatever, I don't know that you can think like that.
The concept of an executive saying, hang on, why not?
Yeah.
Just that somebody saying why not instead of why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why not do this?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
the why not.
It's the why not.
That give you a Bluey.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Um,
Absolutely. But as I say, I wouldn't want to be one of the gatekeepers. I don't think it would be a fun job. I don't think it would be a job where I'd probably get it right all the time. I don't think anyone can get it right all the time, you know. Yeah.
We've got to get a gatekeeper.
A gatekeeper.
Get a gatekeeper in. Yeah.
We've got to get a gatekeeper.
Because I want to know. Like, all we
I
are
think we're
is
building
just like,
towards that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
It'll be a very special episode.
Do
We're going to make them answerable
Involving
for all
a
of
crime.
these crimes
Yeah.
that they had personally nothing
Nothing to do with. There was one thing I did that I was personally proud of, but it's subsequently come to naught, but was before the executive that loved it left, I said to her, do you have the power to to do stuff now, or are you leaving in a week, or have you left? And she said, no, I've got about a week left. And I said, okay, if this is going to fall over, which I at that time sort of had figured out was going to happen, if this is going to fall over, I don't want the ABC owning it. Can we own the IP? And so she did a deal, and our lawyers and stuff, and so that's not owned. I mean, if I were to take it to Marvel Studios, I would have to get the 60 grand back to the ABC.
Yeah.
And give them a
Right.
credit.
Yeah.
But I can do it. So it was my one, I can make that again. And a couple of times, it actually nearly happened in the last 12 months. It's nearly become something else. But it's such a it just irritates me that it was such a thing that if we'd done it at that moment, it would have been just right when all that stuff was happening.
Yeah.
So very much a one that got away.
Mm-hmm.
So are we declaring it dead?
I mean, it could.
Like cybercrime's over now, right?
Well, it's funny because I'm reading one of those books that I picked up at the airport last week, Thursday Murder Club, right?
Yeah.
Mega, like New York Times bestseller. It's a murder mystery set in an old people's home. And it's the old people, outsmarting the cops and doing things the cops can't do. And it's unaccompanied minors, but the other end of life, right?
Plus Miss Marple.
It's just not Miss Marple enough to be interesting to more than the bajillion people who have, like, it's being made into a TV show. There are several series of the books and blah, blah, blah. But I do see that everywhere. But I do remember, I do just go back to, you know what, you knew it wasn't your only idea and you framed that and you knew that. So it was always going to be, these things are often a fight. I had to fight to make the documentary. You have to fight. Sadly, particularly in TV, that's part of the process. It's not part of the process in books. So when I've written my books, I've just been like tra-la-la-la-la through a field of daisies, and then, you earn $1.
They're not just handing out 60 grand for research.
Nah. That doesn't happen.
So, are we going to have a time of death? I don't know. Like, there's still life there. I don't know. Is it being all right? Even though,
I'm intrigued by your canny move of protecting your rights to possibly make it in the future. That feels like you are have put it in cryogenics, possibly.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that's true.
To be
that
revived at a future time.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think
it's sort of like, I don't know, it's a bit of a Schrodinger's project. It's dead and alive.
And by going on here, I'm potentially killing it more.
Oh, that's a good.
Sorry,
sorry, I should have explained that.
No, I knew that.
You've
that's
opened
why
the
I
box
didn't
and
come
the
in
cat's
earlier.
dead.
I absolutely knew that.
A bit of backstory to this is that we did want you to come in and be a part of Pitch Bleak in season 1.
Yes.
And to actually talk about this same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were very close to doing it.
Yeah.
And then you last minute had to bail out because it's like, I'm sorry, my project that was killed might suddenly come back to life. So
no, it
I
really
can't do
did
it.
almost. It really did almost happen in a different context. So it was like more of a writing project, potentially a book. But the question was, I mean, I've taken it to some people who've been like, are you kidding? That's amazing. We should be doing that. And then the sort of work required to revive something, you kind of go, oh, maybe I just think of a new idea. You know what I mean? So in the end, with this, the book, what I've done is something that's a sort of adjacent idea, but you couldn't, barely there'd be a DNA trace of, 0.001%. But yeah. But I was in a meeting. I was in a meeting a few weeks ago, and I think maybe it's because I'm getting old, but like I kind of don't care anymore. So we're talking about this thing, and this person was like, I really want to do it, and I'm an executive, and this is going to be the best. And I was like, yeah, cool, sounds great. And then at one point I said, so what happens when you get fired? No, I didn't say when. I said if. Sorry, I said if.
It's quite obvious you're bad at your job.
No. I just meant like you're an executive. They sweep through those places and they just go next and you're gone and my whole thing's gone. And that's 3 years of my life and the big system doesn't care, And she said, how did you know? I was like, what? And she said, no, they're doing a sweep through and it's in a few weeks. And anyway, she was fired in it.
No way.
But she did have to answer my question. And her answer to my question was, if that happens, I will come onto the project as a producer and be the champion of it that way, which to me wasn't a good enough answer, actually. You know, there were a whole lot of other factors, but you sort of need to know that.
Yeah.
Like you sort of need to know that if your person gets cancer and disappears for a bit, she's fine now, she's well, it's devastating because
you're off the list.
we did not kill her. Yeah. It's the champion thing is really it's really hard.
There's such an element of timing there. It feels like
Luck,
you've got
timing,
to you come in, you find your champion, and as you say, you've got to be hitting them at the right point in their cycle. It's like, okay, so you need to almost interview them and go, okay, so how long have you been in the job?
Yeah.
How much? Oh, so you've got about 2 years of power left.
How
here,
good a
probably.
mate are you with the person 5 people up the rank?
Yeah.
The rung, you know.
All right, we're heading towards the, I guess, the post-mortem area of unaccompanied minors. Now, if we went back, like if you did it again, would you do anything differently? Do you think there's another way you could have got it up, or is it just this is just the system at its work and there's just nothing you could have done?
No, I kind of think it was the system because we got every advantage. Like they trusted us to have our own production company and us to be producers, and we hadn't made stuff before in that way. Like they were really giving us a power that I had to justify my own existence as a creative person on this John Clarke documentary project like half an hour ago. You know, this is a decade or whatever it is ago, and they were
you were essentially the teenagers.
We were the teenagers. Yeah, exactly. And you know, she could have been fired, our champion, or moved or something like that, and that was just always going to be the case.
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
Yeah. Then do you think it deserves to die? It's a question we ask.
I don't, but I'm biased. Yeah. I just loved it so much. I just thought it was such a funny, fun concept. We got the giggles sitting around trying to write scripts about it. And there was a period there where we were thinking, and maybe this is what I should have done, is pitched it to London or pitched it to, you know, to the BBC or to, I don't know, another country and gone, see how this is an international thing. But, you know, they wouldn't have taken the teenagers seriously. So that
question now that you ask of people where, are you going to be fired?
Are you going to what happens if you're fired?
Would you tell any young 20-year-old creative now that just be like, just ask them, are they going to be fired and moved on?
Do you know what? They ask rude questions all the time. Executives say things like, but you've had no experience in documentary. And you go, no, I haven't. And I haven't had experience in making this particular documentary. Like, how narrow does that thing go down? Because I've written my whole life. I've directed theatre. This is my whole existence. But so if they're asking you things like that, or why can't you ask the sort of the questions that need to be asked of them, right?
Yeah.
And it's often taken as impertinence.
Yeah.
But I do it now smiling and laughing like a kind of, no, not quite like that. But just I do things like another one was I had to be really firm about something and I was scared of it. And I asked my producer, who's kind of my mentor at the moment, Richie Keddy, I said to him, how do you say stuff like that? And he said, they say stuff like that all the time. And he said, 10 of it a day. And he said, here's what you do. And it was a phone call, to be fair. It was a phone call. And I had to say, he said, here's the line that you have to say it, and then stop speaking.
Oh.
He said, it's really powerful. Stop speaking. Don't try and phrase it interestingly. Just say this line, I want X, and then stop speaking. I was like, I can't do that. Anyway, and so I practiced the line, got on the phone, had a chat, and then I said the line, and I literally had to put my hand over my mouth.
Fill the silence.
And they just had to, there was a massive silence, and then they just had to answer me, didn't they? Whereas if I hadn't asked that, they wouldn't have had to answer me. And their answer was not what I wanted. And so I walked away, right? Why is that so hard for creative people when executives do it all the time? So I don't know. But, you know, sometimes people get offended and then they never have you anywhere near their stuff again. But it's probably fine because they're an idiot.
Chris has been writing names down. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yep.
He's been writing names down because now it's time to identify the
Yes.
murderer of unaccompanied minors. And that is a list, Chris. So
What have you got?
Joe Brum at Bluey.
It's definitely not his fault.
Some look unlikely. Somehow reaching back in time in order to sabotage this, so to free you up to come into work
Look,
with them.
it's a long bow. I'm all for conspiracy theories about, involving that sort of thing, but no.
Okay. I think you'll like this one. Jane Campion.
Definitely.
Wanting to sabotage the project in order to free up Jan Chapman.
Jan Chapman, yeah. It's a pretty out there theory.
I want you to say why not.
oh, why not?
Why not instead of why? Why not? She wouldn't do that to me because of my Kiwi heritage, I don't think. I just think that bond is too strong. Yeah.
Good. I've written, I kind of regret writing this, the perpetrators of 9/11.
Yeah.
That came up.
Look,
You brought it up.
they kind of helped
Yeah.
with the idea in a
Oh,
way.
okay. Yeah.
So maybe we can hold
So-
them accountable for some other crimes, but not.
So you're going to say on one level, you got to hand it to him.
That's
that-
not exactly what I said.
I think there's, and you put a bit of weight on this yourself. I think it's fair to say
Yeah.
you did slam the steering wheel
Oh no, that is true.
and said words to the effect of "it's happening."
It's happening. I mean that has to be a factor. I remember in law what's it called? An intervening event. It's an intervening event. Or perhaps what it did was just the universe, it shifted the universe like kind of one camera frame to the right or the left or whatever, towards its death.
And as we've already discussed, there seems to be some quantum mechanics going on with this somehow. And if it's
Totally.
a bit of chaos theory,
Yeah.
we've got a major suspect here in ABC person who wanted the project to be more Miss Marple-ish.
And didn't understand that it wasn't going to be set in offices looking at old computers.
That's where the computers are, Lauren. They're in the office.
Oh my God. Anyway.
And finally, I've got here John Clarke because maybe not consciously, maybe not deliberately, but I think he knew, Lauren, you're destined for other things.
Right.
Here, you don't want to get bogged down in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my parents have advised me my entire life that they haven't quite said don't do what I'm doing, but their eyes have been very much open to the peril of having a creative career. So
I think all responsible creative artists have said that at some point. Like just don't reconsider.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so okay, yeah. Look, he could potentially be aiding and abetting, but I think you're right. I think the steering wheel moment's on me. Bit of kind of culpability there, but to me, it's the executive who's in the crosshairs for just pure and also for that phone call. Because you can something can die, but if it is like shot to death in the face, like the project was in that moment where poor Rita rang up having not had anything, and she was just like, that's pretty bad. That's pretty. I feel like that should be taken into account in sentencing. Like if somebody fixed your plumbing, you know what I mean? You'd be respectful. You wouldn't just say, I suppose you realise I'm not going to pay you, or whatever. So that irritates me beyond belief. That just makes it all. It's almost like the crime wasn't just murder of unaccompanied minors. The crime was murder and dismemberment and public display of
Yes.
body parts strewn across. I don't know. It just shouldn't
it's
have
a
been.
war crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason for the no, you still haven't got that yet. Is that right, or is it?
They didn't get it.
No.
I mean, it came down to they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And
What is this?
The other one got it.
Oh, are we gonna make a decision? I think the executive. I'm gonna.
I think I've got to land there.
Unnamed executive.
Again.
Wonder if it's the same one with all of them.
Ultimately, we will set about arresting them for the murder
Great.
of unaccompanied minors, which sounds worse than the actual crime.
Yeah. It does. The murder of unaccompanied minors.
Horrible.
What a way to go down.
In the
By Lorin
meantime,
Clarke.
Lorin Clarke, your book, Would That Be Funny?
Yes.
Growing Up with John Clarke, available now.
Yeah. Available in all good bookshops, and every bookshop's a good bookshop. So they're just everywhere. Actually, do you know what? It's on audio as well.
Oh,
There's an audio book.
Read by
Moi. So, I mean,
What a Sell.
come on.
And now tell the audience it's not good. So that
Yeah. It's terrible.
No, I want it. No, I'm deleting it.
No, it's only available in like corners of the internet. They're called audible.com. Yeah.
Lorin Clarke, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys.
thank you.
Good to get to the bottom of it.
A lot of cops will say you're too close to this. You got to step away. I say get closer
Embrace the crime.
until you are the crime.
Hey, before we leave, I got another idea.
Ooh. All right.
Are you ready for Has It Got Legs?
Okay, what do you got?
I got a short film.
A short film. What is a short film these
It's
days?
less than 15 minutes in length, in my mind.
Yeah,
Are you ready for my less than 15-minute film?
I am.
It's called Finding Mr. Moomar. This is a story from a friend of mine, and I was like, that would be a good film. So
Well, I mean,
I'll
it
tell you
sounds great.
okay, when I tell you Finding Mr. Moomar, what's your first thing that comes into your head?
I've got suspicions about this Moomar guy.
Okay. So a friend of mine was house sitting for another friend, and they were both teachers. Not sure if that is relevant, but both teachers. He was house sitting for him and also cat sitting for his cat. But he met him at the pub to hand him the keys, to get the keys received from this guy.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'll meet you down at the pub. I'll give you the keys. We'll be away for 3 nights. If you just look after the place, you're like, yep, no worries. Guy comes down, gives him the keys. He stays on, has a few drinks with some friends. That guy leaves, and then my friend stayed there for a long time, having a few drinks, and then left at 2 a.m. to go back to this house that he's now house sitting.
Yep.
When he gets to the house, he opens the door and a cat runs out. Just runs out. Like, and you know the jingle jangle, the cat's noises.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that noise is like, oh. Bit dazed, he goes inside. He's like, do I go get the cat? What's the deal there? And then he's like, I don't know. I can't remember what it looked like. And on the fridge is the only evidence he has of what the cat is, which is the 3-year-old's drawing of Mr. Moomar, the cat. So it's the only thing he has to go off, Mr. Moomar. And
Knows the name.
Knows the name.
And he's got a witness sketch.
The cat ended up coming back. Everything was fine. But I was like, a good short film would be if he goes on search for this cat and then finds like the exact photo, like drawing of that cat. He's like looking at it.
Like a really fucked up cat.
A fucked up Mr. Moomar. And then he's like, shit. So he gets it home, gets the cat home. And then, like, for the weekends, they become buddies, and it's a montage of them become buddies before his friend comes back and is like, what the fuck is that?
What the hell? Yeah.
That's not Mr. Moomar. It's like, and then they start screaming, and that's the end of the film.
Just, how long is the screaming bit?
I reckon a while.
All right. to fill out the 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
So the plot's over by about 9 minutes in.
Yeah, for sure. And that's 6 minutes of screaming.
Does Mr. Moomar scream?
No, I was thinking Mr. Moomar could like evolve into like this big massive.
Oh shit! So it's like a horror thing.
Oh,
now.
like if we're going to go that 6 minutes extra,
Yeah.
Otherwise, we cut it earlier and we just like, haha, little thing.
All right.
But then Mr. Moomar like gets power.
All right.
And
So I can
so-
see. Well, one advantage I can see already is that you can have a few different cuts of this with progressively higher classification ratings, depending on where you stop the film. Like if you stop just at the guy getting back, we're probably safely in that PG zone. But then you're going to go into this, whirlwind of Lovecraftian horror for about 7 minutes, and it's just going to get worse and worse to the point where it's refused classification.
Do you think actually that's that aside? Do you think that's a fun like?
Let's just bring it back to the movie.
Shut up. My idea aside.
Oh,
And then your idea of like, would you choose films like, oh, I can see the G version or I can see the X-rated version?
yeah.
Like, would that be fun to be like, I could go see Bananas and Pajamas.
Interesting.
The X-rated version. Like, everything has a...
What is wrong with you? Really? There's no pajamas in that version, I can tell you.
It's bananas.
That's interesting. Like, is that an in-theater experience? I can select. This sounds more like a streaming choice to me.
Oh, it
I
could
can't
be.
see how it's practical.
No,
to
there's probably...
subdivide the cinemas like that.
I can't either. Too many admin errors. Like, which one did you put on? Trevor,
Oh, no.
you put on the X.
Oh God, they're all preschoolers.
Oh, no. Where are the pajamas?
Mr. Moomar?
So thumbs up to Mr. Moomar.
Oh, it's great. It's a winner.
Okay.